All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Wall Street Rundown. I'm your co-host Billy. I got Wale with me. What's up, Wale?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing well, man. This week has been a very interesting week, but let's go ahead and do a quick summary real quick. So the big indexes, they're gonna close down a little bit down today. We snapped like a 3-day winning streak. So S&P was closed down a little bit. Nasdaq, dropped down a little bit. The Dow Jones was kind of basically flat. The Russell 2000, slid down a little bit also. So today we finally kind of like seen a little bit of retracement also, but we also seen the CPI reports come in. The annual came in at 2.5%. The monthly came in at plus 0.1%, which kind of triggered a drop in the treasury yield, right? And boosting bond prices and all that stuff. The other thing that happened this week also, the US China trade framework deal has finally came to fruition. I don't know if anybody was excited about that. I didn't see a lot of people talking about it. I mean, I see people here and there, but it didn't really excite me too much. Like I didn't understand the structure, but I think that deal was only done basically for the earth minerals and the rare minerals, basically. So they needed to do that deal. Some of the stuff that moved after the market closed was Oracle. Oracle jumped. I don't know if you guys seen that. Oracle was up like $18 or something like that after the market closed. They reported today. Shopify also was up. I mean, Shopify has been going crazy. I don't know if people have been paying attention to that, but that thing has been going crazy. So go take a look at that. But other than that, man, I see some of the U.S. Treasury bonds rallied, also pushing the 10-year yield down to about 4.41%. It's still kind of high, but it's still up there. I see the oil prices also kind of went up a little bit. So yeah, man, give us your outlook on this week. I'm kind of curious about what the Fed Reserve is going to do, if they're going to be a cut. If not, I mean, based on the CPI numbers today, I don't know if that's even going to be factored into the play anymore.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the inflation numbers, and they are either they're headed in the right direction overall. So not a lot of not a lot of fear in the market where people are scared of inflation. Now, I still feel that the Fed is going to still hold. I don't think they're going to be ready to cut because again, they don't want to make that mistake because I think everybody is anticipating some sort of inflationary data in the future based on what's going on with tariffs. We haven't seen it yet. So for now, everyone is kind of just staying put. I expect the Fed to do the same thing. The 10-year under 4.5, I think is kind of where the market kind of feels safe. We
Mm-hmm.
start getting above 4.5, I think that's when the market starts getting nervous. And then also the 30-year, same thing. If it's under 5%, people are, the market's fairly comfortable if it's under 5%. If it starts to get above 5%, that's when we've seen a lot of shaky trading and we've seen sell-offs as well. So, but as far as tariff revenue is concerned, they said in May that the United States brought in $23 billion in tariff revenue,
That's
which
good.
I think was an all-time high. So, the whole issue about trying to cut into the deficit, that's a good place to start. But I also heard that spending in May was also at an all-time high. So I really don't know what Doge was set up for. You know,
Yeah.
you can't cut into a budget deficit if you're going to make more money and spend more money. So how they figure all that stuff out, I don't know. And I saw the market start to sell off today after a really good CPI report, which caused a spike during Scott Bessett's testimony.
Yep.
And that debt ceiling issue is a big issue
Problem.
that I just want to let people know that if it does not get resolved, the market is going to be in trouble. Because I will say this, the stock market doesn't work if the bond market doesn't work.
Mhm.
Plain and simple. The stock market doesn't work if the bond market doesn't work. So when I saw that sell off, probably need to go back and read more detail about exactly what he was talking about. But it seems that the debt ceiling issue is still something that you have to have in the back of your mind as far as whether or not we start to push higher or whether or not we could see a retracement and start to see some sort of a pullback.
Yep. Yep. And the one big beautiful bill actually like I believe like a $4 trillion increase in the debt ceiling. I mean, it's I don't know, man. Like,
Yeah, the bill is projected to add more debt,
yep.
and people are saying that that's not a good thing. So I don't know whether it's going to get passed. I don't know what the result is going to be, but if they don't resolve that issue, you know, that's gonna cause some that's gonna ruffle a lot of feathers.
Right, right. And we talked about, uh, the raising debt service costs. It's like we are paying a lot more in servicing our debt also. So that's another cost that we have to incur on top of all of these stuff. You know what I mean? So that's another issue that we're dealing with also. So
Correct. Yep.
you're getting hit from all type of direction. I don't know what they're gonna do, how they're gonna take care of this, but if you add more debt, guess what? It's gonna cost you more to service it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
It's a lose-lose situation in
It's
life.
a snowball effect at this point. So
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, man. So one thing I want to talk about that's a little fun. I know we mentioned Elon and Trump kind of feuding over last week, and I said it. Said it. If you guys go back, I said them two are gonna kiss and make up, and we all gonna be cool. And
this 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 continues to add to my theory that Billy is the feds.
them two went back, and Elon just ended up saying, "I'm sorry, it was too much," and all these different things. I don't know what Elon was on, because if I was me, I would not be committing my career suicide or company suicide, saying stuff like that to the president of the United States. Like, I won't do that. You know what I mean? You basically putting a target on your back. Now, can the relationship go back to how it used to be? I have no idea. You know what I mean? Because at this point, they kind of like took jabs at each other's personality, and they weren't too personal. So I don't know if they can get back to the same level, but it is what it is. Elon kind of apologized a little bit. Trump accepted his apology and said, "Hey, I'm willing to reconcile and talk to him." I was like, "Damn, they were just fighting online, man." It was like yeah, it was a very interesting time. But just wanted to say that they're good now. They're back on good terms, at least for now. Moving on, man. Apple or whatever WWDC was a disappointment, bro. Like, I was like, seriously? Like, seriously, this is what you guys have to offer. So here's some of the things that roll that liquid glass. Who cares about liquid glass? You know what I mean? They did software updates overview. So iOS, iPad, watch it, they're all gonna have like the same software basically. Apple Intelligent Enhancement. They dropped the ball on this one. So on device AI expanded to 8 new languages with features like live translation for messages and calls, visual intelligence, gen emoji, and image playground. It's like, what? This is all you guys are rolling when it comes to AI? Like, there's no innovation, nothing whatsoever. There's a lot of there's a lot of stuff that was supposed to do for Siri that all got delayed to back all the way back to 2026. So no, man. Like overall, I feel like this thing was just overwhelming. It was boring. This lack of innovation. You know what I mean? I was like,
We've been talking about this for years, man. We've been
what is
talking
like? I don't understand.
we've been talking about this for years, and we've been saying that Apple is no longer an innovative company.
Mm.
Like if you just look at what they're working on, the advancements that they've had on their Starship product, the iPhone, there's no sort of innovation. And as other companies are sort of um, advancing on the AI front, they really don't have nothing to talk about.
No,
Nothing,
no,
nothing. And from a company standpoint, like I said, if you're, I'm not saying Apple's not a bad company. Don't get me wrong. I can no longer treat Apple like a growth company. So to me, at this price, it's expensive. I would not be buying Apple at this price. They are a value tech company. To me, I would give them the same multiple as I would give some of these older tech companies like IBM, Oracle, and those other companies because Apple, I don't know. Apple is, I don't know. I don't know what else. I don't know what to expect from them at this point. It's kind of like, you know, what what are you going to give me over the next couple of months? Now, can they figure it out? Maybe.
yeah,
But to me, there's other places I'd rather invest my money rather than Apple right now. I'm just like, if I'm an Apple shareholder, right? And I,
yeah,
I actually did have Apple years ago, and I basically got rid of them. Most of that went into Nvidia, which has not been a bad move.
right,
But yeah,
right.
Apple is no longer an innovative company. They are really dropping the ball on all kinds of fronts,
Pe-
all kinds of fronts. So
People were not happy, man. One guy said that the image playground is such a garbage, and some people say that Apple is prioritizing aesthetic over substance, which I completely agree with.
Oh yeah, exactly.
They want to make things looks nice. I'm like, you're not a design company. What are you guys doing? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
They,
leave that to Adobe.
yeah, go contract Adobe to do your designs, and you guys focus on actually building something innovative. Like they have not been innovative. I think they're going to be left in the dust if they don't figure it out very, very, very soon. Because I feel like Nvidia is leaving them in the dust. I mean, all these
Microsoft.
Microsoft's leaving them in the dust. Like, come on, like, please do something. Like, you guys have money, you guys have the resources. I don't know. Maybe they're working on something they're not ready to tell people yet. Oh,
See, I Apple is going to have to grow through acquisition. They have to make strategic acquisitions to grow because I don't know, I don't know what they're doing. I know what's it called just spent a good $15 billion yesterday on some AI company, Meta. So
mhm.
they're going very aggressive on the AI front. If I'm going to pick a tech company to ride over the next, call it 3, 4, 5, 6 years, I would definitely pick someone like Microsoft or Meta over Apple at this point.
Yeah,
I'm really disappointed in what's going on, and I know they're not going to get rid of Tim Cook. I know they're not going to bring in new leadership, but they need to figure something out because, like you said, they're going to get left in the dust.
yeah, yeah. Well, the response to that, the stock fell about 1 to 1.2%. A lot of people on Wall Street expressed disappointments. Um, some analysts from UBS, Barclays, they all said like there's no wow factor anymore. So I don't. Everybody kind of like disappointed basically in this year 2025 Apple Day. Like everybody just disappointed.
And
But
I'll give you a technical level that I'm looking at for a trade possibly tomorrow. Yeah, if Apple loses this 197 level tomorrow, I'm about to mark that 197.70 level is what I'm looking at. Apple loses 197.70 tomorrow, I might be looking at, trading puts. So we'll see. But the stock got rejected at a key level this week, and you can see the key level 204.65.
yep,
One, two, three, four rejections over the last couple of days.
yep.
And if it loses this loses 197.70, I'm looking at puts tomorrow for sure.
But yeah, but hopefully they figured it out, man. They're still a good company, like we said, but they like innovation at this point. Like they need some type of innovation. I do agree with you. They can probably grow by acquisition, but it's like they need to find innovative company to be able to buy and scale from there.
Correct.
They need something, man. But yeah, but let's move on to Amazon, man. Amazon Web Service have signed a long-term power purchase agreement with Talon Energy to source up to 1,920 megawatts of carbon-free electricity from Talon's nuclear plant in Pennsylvania.
What
The
kind of plant did you say? What kind of plant did you say?
nuclear, all of the good stuff that we've been talking about since last year. You know what I mean? Go look at OKLO. We talk about OKLO a little bit, but go look at OKLO. But anyway, that deals runs through 2042 with full capacity targeted by 2032. I mean, we've been talking about this, bro. Like we
What
talked
else?
about OKLO when it was at under $10.
What else do you want us to say? So we got we got Meta signing a long-term nuclear power deal. We got Microsoft signing a long-term nuclear power deal. We've
Yeah.
got Amazon now signing a nuclear power deal.
Mhm.
That's $3 trillion companies signing nuclear deals.
Yep.
And if you go check, you want to go fact check this, go back to last summer when we were talking about nuclear being instrumental in powering the data center need and the demand for power in this whole AI arms race. And if you've been listening, you're in a good place. But if you haven't been listening, you're probably very, very angry. And like I said, I actually found out today, I think I sent this to you. I don't know if you saw it. I actually saw that Rolls-Royce also builds small modular nuclear reactors as
Most of it.
well.
Where they trying to put it?
Rolls-Royce.
They trying to put that stuff in the cars?
I don't know if they're gonna put it in the cars. That'd be bad because if you get into a car accident, everybody's fried. I don't know if I'd do that. But I'm hearing though that they could be working on SMRs at powered towns.
I mean, yeah, I think we talked
So
to a little bit. So
I've been beating the drum on small modular reactor technology for the
yeah.
last year.
When it comes to energy, that actually an innovative way to do it. Like
Correct.
that's
Yep.
the innovation into energy because we tried solar, we tried wind,
Yep.
like what else? Electricity, gas, coal. We tried all these different things. Nuclear hasn't taken off because of a bunch of meltdowns and heck, it can't
Mhm.
really scale it just yet. But now that the technology is here, the science is here, I think it's we're shifting toward that right now. So when
Hmm.
it comes to energy, I think that's energy for me, like SMRs are like what AI is doing for the technology, right?
Correct. I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%.
That is be crazy.
And for me, the reason why I locked OKLO is because as I did more research on their technology,
Mm-hmm.
they can deliver power in remote areas. So if you're thinking about building a nuclear plant or a nuclear, reactor, the more isolated it is away from civilization, the better it is as far as safety concerns are concerned. And I think that that's where they specialize in because they just signed a deal with the U.S. Navy,
Air Force.
Air Force to provide power to a base out in Alaska.
Yeah.
And if you go look at what the stock did, I mean, the stock was up, what, 29%
Percent.
today? I think we hit a new high of $68.91. I've been talking about this stock when it was $5.
Yeah. Yeah. We can go back. We have the receipts.
Yeah, I've been talking about this stock since it was $5. And I looked at my average cost basis on the stock, and I'm talking about stock. I'm not talking about options. My
Yeah.
average cost basis is $6.11. So we are sitting in 1,000% gain so far in the stock. Now, if you didn't catch it at the absolute bottom, you probably had an opportunity to catch it when the market sold off this year in April. We hit a low of what, 1742? I mean, that's not a bad return if you look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. But explain to the people though, like what led you into like doing the research when it comes to like nuclear. I know we talked a little bit about it, but it's like how did you come up to that and how did you even end up selecting OKLO and going OKLO as opposed to the other ones?
So so this all started back when I was on a Nvidia earnings call, and Jensen Wong was talking about building, like, he was talking about AI infrastructure. I forget the exact term he used, but he was kind of like talking about building AI hubs, like technology hubs. And as he was doing that, I was like, what do you need outside of chips to continue to produce these like hubs? And I thought power. And I was like, okay, power, but our current grid cannot handle the demand that is needed for this.
Yeah.
Then I saw Sam Altman take OKLO public via SPAC, and I
Mhm.
did research into what they do, and their main business is nuclear, and they're out here in the Bay Area in Santa Clara. So when I saw that, I initially made a speculative investment with a small amount of money. Eventually, the stock started to move higher. I think I doubled my money in a couple days, but then they had an earnings call, and the stock dropped back like to
Mhm.
like around like $5. And that's when I started to buy more because what I heard I think they were still losing money. They're still losing money.
Yep.
But what I heard on that call was that they're scaling on pace to have something live in about 2027. And the biggest hurdle that they needed to get through was regulatory issues. Once we cleared that hurdle, that's when the stock started to move.
Yep.
The stock started moving and started gaining momentum. And then I've sat in on a few more earnings calls, and they're still really on pace to have a live reactor in 2027. Now they're signing contracts with people to deliver power. I think they signed a contract out in Korea. They've got this one in Alaska now. So, and I did a lot of research on their technology, and I really like what they're doing as far as being able to provide power in remote areas.
Yep.
And what I think is when you are looking to build a data center, probably want to build it in a place where there's going to be cheap land, right? So probably remote areas where there's not a lot of people. So I'm like, okay, if that's the market they're trying to cater to, then I feel like this is my way of getting into the power dynamic of what's going to drive AI. Now, SMR is another company that we've talked about that does that. I think NEE is another company that does that. You got CEG, I think which is another bigger company. Constellations is a bigger company, but I basically just said, you look at the whole AI story, you need power. And power is the one thing that you cannot skip that step. Like you can't have an AI data center without power. Plain and simple. You need chips and you need power.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So, you know, based on that analysis, I think if you're in our trading group, I gave a very detailed explanation about SMR technology. I hope people read it, and and got a chance to do their own due diligence and think and see whether they wanted to get into it or not. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I've never had a home run stock play like this in my life. So,
That thing moved from the first time we started talking about it to now. I mean, 1,000% move so far. That's crazy. Now, I do want to talk about one thing. So, one of the technologies called, I think it's called Helio or Helio, whatever. I think
okay.
they basically, it's a uranium enriched, high grade, I believe, technology. It contains between
Mhm.
5% and 20% uranium 235, which you need to be able to create like nuclear reactors and all this stuff, right? Um, some of the key advantages is it's compact, it has a longer fuel efficiency, and it enables advanced reactor types, right? So, some of the companies that actually develop that, and I'm trying to connect the dot now. So OKLO is probably going to need one of those companies that develop that technology in order for them to use it in their reactor. So one of those companies is actually called Centrus Energy. Their ticker symbol is LEU. Go take a look at that. I mean, that's something that I think definitely worth noting because they are one of the only companies in the US that actually makes that and supply it.
Mm, interesting.
Um, Again, if you start digging deeper into this whole nuclear world, you will find other components that company like OKLO might need, right? They might need contract. I think we talked about that. Like, who's actually going to be a contractor that's actually going to build those reactors, right? What's the company that's actually going to supply those things that OKLO going to need, all of that stuff. So it's like you start thinking about those small components, you can probably find another good stocks within that. Kind of like the same thing we talk about when it comes to AI, right? And
And
chips.
and I just want to point out that Centrus Energy was a $49 stock in April. Now
Yeah.
it's trading at 165.
And look at the high though. Look how high.
One, wow. Yeah. So
So
yeah. So I want to this takes me back to this takes me back to what we talked about. This was years ago. I want to say this was when Nvidia was first taken off
mhm,
during
mhm.
the AI race. And what eventually led me to TSM and VRT.
Yep.
You always have to remember that during an innovative market move where the world is pushing towards something new and innovative, you always have to remember that there is not always one player in that story. There
Actually,
are many components and many pieces that will drive the infrastructure or will drive the boost for that company.
absolutely.
Because I keep saying this, I missed out on the NVIDIA run. I missed it. But in its run, I sat down and I said, what other pieces of the AI story can I be a part of
Yep.
that makes sense?
Yep.
TSM made a lot of sense because they manufacture the chips. VRT made a lot of sense because they're contracted to provide the cooling technology for the chips to keep them
Yep.
running.
Yep.
So if you go look at those plays and look at where they went as Nvidia went, you'll see the trajectory was about the same. So anytime you're thinking about an investment thesis or you're thinking about investing in a company, this is why I always tell people if you're going to buy individual stocks, you always want to make sure that you do your due diligence. Get on earnings calls if you can. A lot of times they're recorded and you can go
Listen,
listen to them at your spare time. Look at who their business partners are. Look at who their customers are. I mean, now you can just type all that stuff in Chat GPT and it'll give it to you. But you need to if you're going to invest in individual companies, you really need to have a holistic view of what they do, who their customers are, and all of that stuff because you might be able to find opportunities that could be better than just investing in that company itself. I
Mhm.
mean, we rode VRT to like almost 180
Yep.
and from like the 70s. So just think about that when you're thinking about investing in companies. Think bigger picture, and then that will allow you and help you make better decisions in the long run when it comes to investing. Because there's not always just going to be that one company that just does everything. No. Mm-mm.
Right. But that's how you start thinking as an investor, and the research part start kicking in, right? It's like, okay,
Correct.
I'm an investor. Now I can find a good stock, and then you could probably trade that stock along you buying the share. So it's like
Correct.
not doing those like, okay, I can have stock, but I can actually make some short-term money, whether it's to be hedging against your stock or actually buying calls on your stock. And it's like you can make money in all this aspect, but it's like you really have to do that research and you do.
Because I'll be honest with you. I'll put it to you like this. If you're a shareholder, you're the owner of a business.
Mhm.
You're a small owner, but you're an owner of a business.
Right.
And my question I would ask you is, if you're a business owner, let's just say you ran a business and you own a business, would you ever, never, ever, 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 ever not know what is going on in your business?
Mhm.
The answer to that is no.
Yeah.
So as a shareholder, you have to think like, I am an owner of this business. I want to be in tuned to what is going on with this stock. If
Yeah.
you think that way, that will help you make better decisions when you're investing in companies, learning when to maybe get out of bad companies who aren't going anywhere,
Mhm.
and looking for good companies who have long-term trajectories and are being innovative.
Yeah.
So, that's how I would think of it. You're a shareholder, you're a business owner, a
Yep.
passive business owner, but you're still a business owner.
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
it helps too when it comes to your research and stuff. So you actually invested. You know what I mean? You're not just sitting around waiting for something.
exactly. Exactly. And investing and doing research is so easy now. Like you can literally go on a chat GPT prompt and
Like,
talk about, give me a summary of the last earnings report for blah, 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 blah.
yep, yep. You don't even have to do too much.
You don't have to do too much
We
nowadays.
have
It's
all the resources. You don't have to
you
go
got
for pay.
you got all the resources you need. All the resources you need. And part of what made me dig deeper into SMR technology was some of the things that I was asking ChatGPT that I was collecting data on. And I will go back to what I sent to my investing group. If you haven't joined, you are missing out.
You're missing out for real.
This was on February 10th, 2010. It says the SMR business is supposed to grow from $5 billion to 150 billion by 2040. Those are estimates. From 5 billion
It's crazy.
to 150 billion by 2040.
That's over 2,000%. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Like that's what people are estimating.
That's
I,
crazy.
I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know what else to tell you.
That is crazy. But I honestly think, and I think we said this before, we are still early into this nuclear world. We are still way too early. The infrastructure is still being built. Companies are starting to secure contracts, secure like all of those different things in anticipation that this is going to be a big deal.
Now
So,
I will say this. One thing that can throw it off is always drastic shifts in government regulation,
yep,
right? Right now, the government is on board,
yep,
but you know that every 4 years we get it's a possibility that you could get new legislation, new presidents, things like that, who have their own agenda. So anytime you're investing, always know the risks involved with what you're investing in.
yep, yep,
Right now, legislation is on the side of investing, but over the next 4 years, we're going to have different presidents, different agendas, different people running government.
yep.
We don't know. So when something fundamentally changes with the story, or something fundamentally changes with a company, that might be your signal to, okay, let me get out. So you always have to know the risk involved as you're investing in those types of companies. And the biggest risk to me with nuclear, even though it's clean energy, it's always government regulation. So
Yep.
I'll put that out there as well.
Better not be a meltdown anywhere because that will
Hey,
fuck up the
yep.
whole.
Yep. Exactly.
But
So pay attention.
Yeah, overall though, I think a lot of companies also do it strategically, right? Because I think if you as a company invest in like green energy and clean energy, you do get tax deduction too. So I think a lot of companies are actually looking like 10, 20 years from now, we're probably going to get all that money back in the forms of tax deduction and tax.
Or tax credits. Yep. Tax incentives. Yep.
So they're thinking way ahead also on top of all of these different things. Not just clean energy, but it's like, oh, we can probably make some money back from that too. So yeah. But anyways, let's move on to CPI, man. CPI came out today, 2.4% year over year, up from 2.3% in April, and slightly below the expected 2.5%. So we didn't really beat it by much, but beat it. You know what I mean? So that kind of helped the market a little bit today. Core CPI was 2.8% year over year. So I mean, some of the main drivers of that is like the cost of fuel kind of dropped a little bit, so that helped.
Hmm.
Shelter continued to push inflation modestly, so that kind of like a little bit of increase in that one. Food and beverage and other services rose to about 0.3%, with food away from home up to 3.8%. So they think about your fast foods and all these different things also kind of way up a little bit. So also medical care, insurance, and education, they all kind of went up a little bit. Transportation, apparel, used cars. Meanwhile, this kind of dip. I'm kind of surprised that apparel kind of dip because of the whole
Mm.
thing, and also used cars. But I mean, we're seeing some drop in that market also. Maybe there's not a lot of buyers, so the price is going down a little bit. But yeah, man. So talk to me about how is that going to affect the Fed? What are they cutting the rate? What are they going to stop? What are they going to stay? Because I'm seeing a lot of like pressure now from the administration to cut rates. I was like, wait, we don't have the data to support that yet. So why are we pushing these guys to try to cut rates? You know what I mean? So let me get your perspective on that one.
Yeah, to me, I still feel there's a sense of fear with the Fed committee because
Yep.
again, you don't want to cut and then all of a sudden you see inflation show up because that whole transitory thing that they got wrong, they're still you that's a triggering event for them. They're still scared.
Yep.
They're still scared. So to me, I really feel like they're like, we're just gonna play it safe. You know, you and I don't think Walmart backtracked about, having to increase prices. I
Nope.
think some of
Nope.
these companies are still kind of holding the line and they haven't really passed on the higher cost to consumers just yet.
Right.
Um, so I know that it takes a lot of, couple months before we start to see inflation kind of, I mean, the tariff data start to show up in the inflation data. Um, But to me, the Fed is scared. They want to play it safe. And I don't blame them. So, and I commend them for standing firm and not listening to what the administration is telling them to do. But it will be a lot worse for them to cut, see inflation, and then have to raise.
That's right.
That
Yep.
that that is a scarier event than it is just to hold the line and just be patient.
Yep. Yep.
And sometimes, everybody may not agree with you being patient, but if you want to look at the lesser of two evils, that is what I call the lesser of two evils. So I'm not expecting to cut rates anytime soon. Now, if let's say we get to October, November, and we consistently see PCE and CPI not increase,
Mm.
then I think we might get one rate cut late in the year. That's my thesis. But until then, you have to be patient. I also saw that Google is offering some guy people buyouts.
Yep. Yep. They're offering some people. I think it was over 2,400 people. They're like,
Yeah, they're cutting their workforce.
yep.
So we haven't seen a spike in unemployment yet.
You see where they're cutting the workforce. Though. It's not necessarily like in it's more like in marketing.
Marketing. Always, what do I say? When companies want to make budget cuts, where do they start?
Yep, that's
Marketing.
the first place to go.
Marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first place they go.
They can probably train the AI to do marketing for them. They don't really need people to be creative anymore. So that's crazy.
Yeah. So, I'm happy with the data. This is another thing that I think I've said this before, and I get real frustrated when I see this, is that I really hate the fact that they look at the year over year inflation number, right? I want them to look at the last 4 years of inflation
Yeah.
and use that average.
Yeah.
Because if you look at where inflation was pre-COVID and where it is now, like you're basically dropping off all of the worst years of inflation. You're dropping off 2020 because if you look at year over year, you're going from 2024 to 2025. So you're dropping off 2020, you're dropping off 2021, and you're dropping off 2022.
Pretty
To
much.
me, you should look at the average of where we came from because that number is going to be a lot more staggering than looking at year over year because inflation had already come down a ton in 2024. So if you look at 2024 to 2025, you're not going to see a lot of difference. But I mean, you just look at how much more money you need to own an average home in America now. That number has gone up tremendously. I mean, the cost of living that we have seen increase over the last couple of years is just crazy. And the fact that the administration wants to raise the debt ceiling and issue more debt is beyond me.
Yep.
But that's a discussion for another story. I mean, that's a discussion for another day.
But here's the inflation. Like if you look at the data from 2021, the inflation was about 4.7%.
Hmm.
It was 8%. I didn't realize it was that high. 2023 dropped to 4.12%, 2024 2.95%, and now we're sitting at 4.94%. That's
So,
yeah,
so if you look at where we came from, that number is a lot more staggering and scary than looking at the year over year. So I, I, I kind of see why they do it, but at the same time, you can't. To me, you're not going to get the whole picture if you don't go back further and look at the data.
absolutely not. It's crazy, man. But I mean, I guess they do that just to like kind of give people hope and stuff. But if you don't do your research, you can go back. You don't really see the full picture. You
Exactly.
know? But let's move on to Jensen Huang, man. Bro, I told you about this. Jensen Huang saying this crap. Talk about it's gonna be 10 to 20 years.
Scammer,
I
scammer,
was like, yo, they
scammer.
are building something, they are working on something, and of course he wants to distract people from that. And that was like what, a few months ago. He's like, oh, we're probably like 10, 20 years away
That
from
was Jan. That was January. That was
yeah,
January.
quantum. And now he's saying that quantum computing, I quote, has reached an inflection point and is now capable of solving some interesting problems in the near future. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'll bet you, man, this dude, they built something that quick and they have something they're testing with, and it's gonna come out and be like, yeah, we have a quantum computing technologies coming up. Like I'm telling you, man. I think his comment from back in January was just to kind of like deter people and kind of like put people on the fence, like, oh, okay, we're not too close yet, but we are way closer than we think.
This man is a man. You talk about Dion backpedaling.
Quick.
That's a big backpedal. To
Yeah.
go from we're 15 to 20 years away to we're at an inflection point now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they have something. They have something.
Somebody somebody is working on something. Somebody is working on something. And the crazy thing, this is how I look at it. I'm really wondering because I think quantum computing in my humble opinion, I still think there's going to be some consolidation
Yep.
because again, I know IBM is working on something. I know Microsoft is working on something. I know Google is working on something. As far as like big multi-billion dollar companies that are working on quantum, those are the three big players in my opinion.
Yep.
Then you've got your small players. You've got your IonQ. You've got your QUBT. Is that one?
Mm-hmm.
There's another one that starts with a Q. Let me go to my watch list. Let me not test. Let me
Pascal, Miter. There's a bunch of them.
yeah. Let me go to the quantum names that I have put down. Um, just want to give you guys a few that I just kind of kept my eye on. So these are the smaller ones that. Oh no, that's wrong list. All right. So you got QUBT. That stock was up 27% today. off
Yep.
of that news. You got Rigetti Computing, RGTI. It's
Yep.
another small computer. That was up 11% today. Um, Another one that's in that group, I said IonQ. Um, then you've got D-Wave, Quantum,
Mm.
QBTS, and those are the only four that I have listed. I think I had one more. Let me just go through my list again. Yeah. Oh, then you got QSI, Quantum SI.
Yep.
So to me, I don't know if those smaller companies, I don't have enough knowledge of quantum yet to understand all the dynamics that are, I saw the IonQ CEO a couple weeks ago who said that they wanted to be the Nvidia of quantum, and that's when the stock just went like parabolic. I saw what he said a couple weeks ago, and it seems to me, I don't know, could be wrong, that they seem to be the leader of the smaller group of companies. Like
Mhm.
they are they are the leader there. But I would not be surprised if one of these bigger companies just swallows up one of the smaller companies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but quantum, again, that is the next stage after AI is quantum, because the speed at which you can solve complex issues will get faster.
Yep. Now, I think Nvidia has a really good play on this one though. So I know they have a partnership with this. I forgot. I think it's called CUDA Q, CUDA-Q. So it's basically an open. It's an open. What is it? It's an open source hybrid quantum classical platform that basically lets developers write a program combining GPU, CPU, and any GPU within a single code base. So what that means is that Coda Q can do integrations with any of those companies you just mentioned. So they can do integrations with IonQ. They can do integrations with Rigetti. They can do integration with IGQ. So as a company, you can choose which of those companies you want to work with in a closed environment. So it's like literally.
Mm,
So I think NVIDIA is playing on that. It's like if we have this power integration, partnership, right, with this CUDA Q, they could probably take over all that. You can choose whatever quantum computing company you want to work with, but you can use our integrations to be able to integrate with it. So now think about Amazon trying to integrate with all this different quantum computing stuff. So I think that's their play. I think they're probably not necessarily gonna build something that has to do with quantum computing, but they're gonna be like the person that you gotta come to in order to do integration. So
mm. Man, there's so many layers to this story, man. It's crazy. Like the number of layers, like you talk about the chip building, the manufacturing, you talk about the networking, you talk about the power that's needed. Another thing with quantum that you also have to understand is quantum computers run very hot.
yep,
So cooling technology
yep.
is
Bring it up.
very, very, very important to
Yep.
keeping those things running efficiently. Um, I thought again, there's a 60-minute video that I watched months ago about quantum computing. I might have to put the link in the comments, but watch it, and it will really, really open your eyes to what people are working on.
Yep.
If you got kids, man, make them take computer science.
And learn about all of those different things, like because that's the next wave, man.
Yeah, that's because once the AI wave starts to coast, because right now we're still in the building phase of AI.
Yeah.
And as AI is getting it more advanced and it's building, you've got quantum that's getting built on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, there's a lot of opportunity out there in the market. You just really need to know where to look.
Yep.
And as an investor, I always tell people if you're looking for growth, invest on where the puck is going, not where the puck is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Look at the demand and the need in the future, not what you currently need now. Now, it doesn't mean that non-growth companies are bad companies to invest in, because some of these companies might provide other things like dividends if you're looking for income, right? But if you're looking for growth, invest where the puck is going.
Yep.
And right now, we all know where the puck is going. We know it's AI, we know it's quantum. And then once you start to strip down that layer, I mean, you start to look at other opportunities out there. I mean, I put this on my page, on my Facebook page. I mean, on my Instagram page. If you don't follow me at Ethical Investor. But um, somebody put up a really, really good graphic about the different layers of AI that you can invest in.
I
This
saw.
came, yeah, this came from Investing Visuals X page. Chip design, ARM, NVIDIA, AMD, components, TSM, MU, SMCI, manufacturers, TSM, AVGO, ANET, power, CEG, EMR, SSU. I mean, they've just given you their picks, but you can always do your own research and start to figure out where you want to be,
Yep.
right? Because like OKLO's not on here, but we're in OKLO,
Exactly.
right? So another company that's really essential to the AI race, to me, that's a monopoly. ASML. Look up that company. Now, ASML, and the reason why they're a Dutch company, I think, somewhere in Europe. I forget where. But this is one that I know I've missed. But their technology is proprietary. And I think that they might be the only one in the world that has a technology to actually inscribe the the things that are needed to put into the chips.
Yep.
I think they're the only one in the world that can do it. The only one. And their machines cost like $20 million.
Sheesh.
They are the only one. So that's another company that I might have to take a look at. Is ASML. I've missed it on numerous occasions. Um,
Still got room to go.
yeah, I think if you look at this stock in the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years, I think this one has lots of growth potential. It's off the high. I think it was at one point a $1,100 stock. It's now sitting at
Seven.
784. So I've got my eye on that one. But you know, think bigger picture when it comes to investing. Think bigger picture.
Mhm.
Um, so and I'm fortunate enough to know people who are tapped into stuff like this that I can reach out to and I can share it if you're part of our investing group and share it with other people. But yeah, this is a contact sport, man. And my thing is if you are idle and you are silent and you don't ask questions, you're gonna miss out.
Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
how that's how I look at it. You have to be an active learner and active listener.
Yep.
Have to be. Have to be. So
Yeah, and I like that. I like what you brought us. Like, look at the whole ecosystem. So even if you break it down to like, let's say, look at like the nuclear world, right? So when it comes to nuclear, like literally, I typed this into ChatGPT. Give me the nuclear ecosystem. Like, what actually creates what suppliers or what do we need to actually create like a nuclear? So it starts with like uranium producers. So you look at uranium producer stocks. I mean,
CCJ.
EPJ, and then Next Energy, NXE. So those are in there. Those are what produce uranium. That's your supply for fuel, right? And then you have to start looking at reactor developers and SMR innovators, right? You start looking at companies like OKLO. You start looking at SMR, which is new scale power. There's another one, BWXT Technologies. There's Talent Energy, which is we just talked about with Amazon and all this stuff. So those are all reactors developers in SMR. Then you start looking at utility operators who actually going to operate those freaking those nuclear reactors and all that stuff, right? You have Constellation Energy, you have Energy ETR, you have next era energy NEE. You start thinking about those things, right? And then you start thinking, okay, internationally, who are other players that can be internationally involved in it? You got Dominion Energy, right? That's another one. You got GE Vernova. That's another stack that we need to talk about. But
So,
you think about all these different things, you're like, oh my God, like
yeah.
this space in so many different factors, you know?
And another thing that you got to think about is, as Billy's giving you that information, you got the people who produce the energy,
Yeah.
you got the people who produce the reactors. You also have to understand that people have to deliver the energy.
Delivery, yes.
Energy delivery is just as important. It's kind of like oil.
Yeah.
some companies drill,
Yeah.
other companies build the equipment, and other companies deliver the energy.
Yeah.
So there's so many components that you can invest in when you start to break it down. And if you're like, how should I put it? If you're like worried about like, oh, what do I look at if one company is better than another? And sometimes not all these companies may be public, so keep that in mind as well. But if they're public companies, I have a webinar that literally breaks down what you look at when you're looking at good companies.
You guys should check that out.
So yeah, check that out. It's free. It's a free webinar. You can look at the key components to look at when you want to look at good companies.
And it's probably
And
easier now because they can just take your concept, type into freaking ChatGPT. You don't have to do the calculation yourself anymore. Like,
exactly.
oh,
So
no
when
excuse.
when you look at the whole ecosystem, when you look at it from that perspective, I'm telling you, you will uncover various different um, investment opportunities that a lot of people aren't talking about.
Yep.
Like when we were investing in OKLO, you weren't hearing about it on CNBC, you weren't hearing about it on the news, anything like that.
Nobody was mentioning it.
I mean, you talk about getting in on the ground floor. I mean, I almost feel like I got in on some startup, like on like I got founder shares in that company.
We got in very early.
You got in very early because again,
Dirt.
you just put in the work to do the research, or join a group that will do it for you.
You can feel and collect, But
So
yeah,
so much opportunity out there. You just got to know where to look. That's all it boils down to. You got to know where to look.
right.
So
So moving on to next week, we have a lot of cat. We got FOMC is coming in this. Is it FOMC next week?
that's FOMC is on the 18th. Yes.
FOMC is next week. That's something you got to keep an eye on. You know what I mean? So keep an eye on that one. I'm trying to see what else we have next week.
Tomorrow we got jobless claims like we got every Thursday. So we'll see what the market reaction is to that because I always still think that that could be a catalyst. Sometimes it's not, sometimes it is, but you just have to pay attention.
Yep. So keep an eye on that one. I don't know what FOMC is gonna say. I don't know what they're gonna talk about, but typically that's a good catalyst for the market, right? So that's coming in June 17th. Fed meeting June 17th to the 18th.
Mm-hmm. Press conference is on the 18th.
Yep. And then we have the retail sales and industrial production. That's June 17th. New residential construction June 18th. But yeah, we have some really good stuff coming out next week. So just keep an eye on those to see exactly what's gonna happen. But anyway, man, going into next week, bro, like I know we covered a lot. The stock market kind of pulled back a little bit today. So any general outlook for what's coming next week at all that you want to mention?
In the absence of any bad data, in my opinion, I still feel that the path of least resistance is still higher.
Mhm.
I would not be surprised if we pulled back or consolidated this week because if I'm looking at the longer term, actually no, we wouldn't consolidate because we did break above last week's high, so I wouldn't call that a consolidation. But I will say that if just based on looking at where we're at from a technical standpoint, we're starting to hit areas of resistance. So yeah, this 535, 536 area, you can kind of see that it is a level of resistance. Actually, let me mark it. 533 to 536 is an area of resistance. You know, this was back in December. We hit it. We pulled back. We
Yeah.
tapped it in January. We pulled back. We broke above it in February, but then once we hit the all-time high, we ended up pulling back. So there are still a lot of sellers in that area. So what we need to do, we got to start taking out all these stop orders. And yeah, you know what's crazy?
Mhm.
I reversed engineered my algorithm
Yeah.
to look for places where there are stop orders that are getting taken out where shorts have to cover.
Ooh,
Man,
you found
I,
some.
I kind of like what I've done because I hit TEM for 190%. Then I hit today SMCI for 125%. And if I look at what it picked up, bro, It actually picked up. I just looked at it. I missed it. It actually picked up QUBT. Go
QUBT.
look at that move today.
Whoa.
And then it actually picked up SMR.
Dude, you need to start posting that.
So I've been testing it for the last couple of weeks. But basically the way it works now is once it breaks through a level where sellers are present, it
Mhm.
will give me the levels of where I guess if it holds support, there's a there's a good likelihood shorts will start to cover.
Yep.
And once they start covering, what happens?
That goes up. Yep.
So
Hey, man.
I'm actually pretty excited with what I saw because I'm looking at SMR right now. So it says that shorts were present between 3309 and 3435. But if it held above 3382, we would see it's a possibility we could see a strong move. If you look at go look at where we wicked off yesterday on SMR. Go look at where we wicked off on the daily.
Oh, yesterday?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You see where it wicked?
Yep.
And look at the move that it made today. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
about to start I'm about to start playing with this a little bit more.
this might be another hack right here.
This might be another hack.
Eee, that was a nice
Cra-
move.
Crazy.
CCJ actually the CCJ is reporting in July, so that's another one to keep an eye on.
And CCJ,
Yeah, that's a nice
since
move.
since we on live now, CCJ is my trade for tomorrow.
There you go.
So 65.46 is where we need to hold the line. If we break above 66.40 tomorrow, I'd probably be looking for a bullish entry. So CCJ is my trade for tomorrow. Don't say I didn't give y'all nothing for free.
Keep an eye
I'll,
on that one.
yeah, I got CCJ tomorrow. So we'll see what happens.
Keep an eye on that one. That's a really good trade.
Yeah.
That's a really. I'm probably gonna see if I can catch the whole move all the way up to the earnings. So we'll see. Maybe I'll get a longer one. But I like it.
Did
Uh,
CCJ just hit an all-time high too? Yeah, I think so.
they wicked off and they retraced a little bit, but yeah, that is a really good one. Keep an eye
Yeah.
on.
I'm actually happy that you brought that up because that is literally on my list for tomorrow.
It looks really nice.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
That's all I can say. And it's consolidating on the 4 hours. So yeah, set your levels and yeah, be ready for it. With that being said, y'all, I mean, we give you guys a lot today. I really want people to think about the nuclear energy and the whole ecosystems. Think about the AI and this whole ecosystem. Think about quantum computing in this whole ecosystem. You can find really, really good nuggets and really, really good companies in that ecosystem. Do your research. And after once you find 5, 6, 7, 10 companies, just do your research. Figure out which one you can invest in right now. But it's there, man. Opportunities is there. That's how crazy it is. So yeah, with that being said, man, Wale, appreciate your time, man. We'll see you guys on Friday. And yeah, have a good night.
All right, everyone.